As I drove home from a church meeting the other evening, I flipped on the radio and was drawn into a discussion on NPR, no less, about heaven and hell. I heard only part of the conversation before, after a few minutes, I turned it off in frustration, thinking, ugh, no wonder so many thinking people in Seattle disregard Christianity. Within Christianity, there's some pretty nutty theories, propagated, I must say, by seemingly ill-informed leaders. Must be how my rheumatologist dad feels when he hears people describe remedies for their arthritis. So let me share with you briefly a few words on heaven and hell. While they may be places to reside after death, they are certainly places where we dwell right now. And for me, and the Christian theology, I both believe and teach the right now regarding heaven and hell take precedent over the speculative nature of a post-death heaven and hell. So, heaven then is shorthand for living in the world as God made us, that is, you and me and all of humanity, to live in it. To be in heaven is to be in the flow, right? To have a sense of spiritual equipoise, to know the joy and the deep connection of the patterns of nature and the joy in the lives of the people we encounter. In other words, being fully ourselves as we live under the loving rule of God. Now, Jesus calls this life in the kingdom of heaven, and says to know it and to own it, that is good news. Right? Good news is living in the flow of the patterns of the world as God made it to be. So to understand the Jesus teaching is to become a student of how to live in heaven. Heaven is here, and heaven is now. And it has a feedback loop that is instantaneous, not based on some scorecard to be tabulated by a needy divine umpire after we die. And so then, if heaven is a here and now proposition, so too is hell. Hell is that place that materializes when we try to run a world that can only be run by God. We know we are in hell when we are fuming. Hell boils up when we boil over. Hell is a temper tantrum provoked when our way isn't in line with the way things are. That's why Jesus' teachings are known as the way. It means the way of creation as God meant it to be. So hell is a choice, and hell is a habit. And our choices lead to habits. And we can choose over time to be the kind of people who live in hell. You've probably met people like this or seen them on TV. You have probably also met people who have grace and equanimity that you admire. This second state of being is the very point of this place here, this church, Epiphany Parish. Here we train people to be the kind of people who live perpetually in the kingdom of heaven.